So we're going to offer commentary on this video that I can't play for the simple fact that he has music in the background. And I think a lot of times people do that because they don't want anybody to use their videos. So we can still talk about the content without playing the video itself, right? So we're going to talk about this person by the name of Wes Huff. He has a channel, 152,000 subscribers. And so he's a Christian apologist from what I can gather. I get videos from him from time to time. So he justifies, right? He justifies Christmas by saying that the early sources have discrepancy dates as far as to when the birth of Sol Invictus is, right? So he goes on to say that Sol Invictus' birthday was in August. Okay, so I can't play the audio, but he says that he's citing Karen Websterfield Tucker, and he said Christmas in Oxford Companion to Christian Thought. Okay, I probably won't be able to get that. Let's see if we can. So this is who he's citing, Karen Westerfield Tucker, and she is a modern contemporary of today who he's using as a reference to something that she wrote. And the thing of it is that many times people they don't want you to mess with their holiday, so they'll justify it and they'll come up with something new. Okay. So this is what he's using, and the reference is Christmas in Oxford Companion to Christian Thought. And so apparently she is his source, okay? So he basically is saying that according to her, that there were dates of discrepancy, right? And that some said the birthday of the Sol Invictus was in the summer. Okay. So we already know that you have two. So there was two celebrations of solstice, right? Which is what's called the winter solstice and the summer solstice. So there's not a contradiction between the dates because the dates both are legit, right? And we can go to a reference for that. So we're going to offer real quick some commentary from Alexander Hislop. Alexander Hislop was born, this is a picture of him, and he was born in 1807 and died in 1867. So Alexander Hislop was a minister, a Free Church of Scotland minister known for his criticisms of the Catholic Church. He was the son of Stephen Hislop, died in 1837, a Mason by occupation and an elder of the Relief Church. Alexander's brother was also named Stephen Hislop and became well known in his time as a missionary to India and a naturalist. Okay. So Alexander Hislop, in his book entitled Two Babylons, right? In his book entitled Two Babylons, and this is a digital copy, but we're going to look at some of what he had to say about solstice because Wes said that days was conflicting. So let's read just a little bit here. You feel like reading? Okay. Let's read the yellow. There you go.
It was no mere astronomic festival then that the pagans celebrated at the winter solstice. That festival at Rome was called the Feast of Saturn, and the mode in which it was celebrated there showed whence it had been derived. The feast, as regulated by Caligula lasted 5 days. Loose reins were given to drunkenness and revelry. Slaves had a temporary emancipation and used all manner of freedoms with their masters.
Okay. So that's one particular instance there. And we're going to go to the next sighting. Okay. Start right here where it says the seed of the woman and just read down to the end of the yellow.
Mm-hmm. The seed of the woman, which name also signified Ignagena, or born of the fire, he has to enter the fire on Mother Night, that he may be born the next day out of it as the branch of God, or the tree that brings all divine gifts to men. But why, it may be asked, does he enter the fire under the symbol of a log? To understand this, it must be remembered that the divine child born at the winter solstice was born as a new incarnation of the great God after that God had been cut in pieces on purpose to revenge his death upon his murderers.
That's good. Okay. So now we talk about what? This is the symbol of the log, or what's called the Yule log, right? Okay. Now up above that, let's see. Let's read this part right here, this part in the yellow.
This was precisely the way in which, according to Berosus, the drunken festival of the month Tebeth, answering to our December, in other words, the festival of Bacchus, was celebrated in Babylon. It was the custom, says he, during the 5 days it lasted, for masters to be in subjection to their servants, and one of them ruled the house, clothed in a purple garment like a king.
Okay, good. So the festival goes back beyond Rome, right? It goes back to Bacchus, right? And if you keep reading here, it talks about the drunken festival, and it says many of these other observances still kept up among ourselves at Christmas came from the very quarter. The candles in all parts of England lighted on Christmas Eve and used so long as the festive season lasts were equally lightened by the pagans on the eve of the festival of the Babylonian deity to do honor to him, for it was of the distinguishing peculiarities of his worship to have lightened wax candles on his altars. The Christmas tree, now so common among us, was equally common in pagan Rome and pagan Egypt. In Egypt, the tree was the palm tree. In Rome, it was a fir, the palm tree, denoting the pagan Messiah as Baal Tamar. The fir referring to him as Baal Berith, the mother of Adonis, the sun deity, and the great mediatorial divinity, was mystically said to have been changed into a tree. Hear that? The mother of Adonis, the sun deity, and great mediatorial divinity, was mystically said to have been changed into a tree. So the tree represents the mother of Adonis, which is Semiramis, right? So that's in Babylon. The mother tree, the sun, must have been recognized as the man, the branch. And this entire accounts for putting of the Yule log into the fire on Christmas Eve. You know, they say Yuletide carols. Yule, that's what we're talking about. Into the fire of Christmas Eve, and the appearance of the Christmas tree the next morning as Zoroaster, the seed of the woman, which name also signifies Ingegena. Okay, you read that part, right? Okay. All right, let's go to the next source here. Okay. This is from page 100, talking about as Rome Juvenal says. Okay, let's just read this part right here, then we'll read that.
As to Rome, Juvenal says that Osiris is offended could be pacified only by a large goose and a thin cake. In many countries, we have evidence of a sacred character attached to a goose. It is well known that the capital of Rome was one on one occasion saved when on the point of being surprised by the Gauls in the dead of the night by the cackling of the geese sacred to Juno, kept in the temple of Jupiter. The accompanying woodcut proves that the goose in Asia Minor was the symbol of Cupid, just as it was the symbol of Seb in Egypt. In India, the goose occupied a similar position, for in that land we read that of the sacred Brahmani goose, or goose sacred to Brahma. Finally, the monuments of Babylon show that the goose possessed a like mystic character in Chaldea, and that it was offered in sacrifice there as well as in Rome or Egypt. For there the priest is seen with the goose in one hand and his sacrificing knife in the other.
That's good. So let's get down here to this part here. This is the goose, right? And what does it say about the goose here?
There can be no doubt then that the pagan festival at the winter solstice, in other words, Christmas, was held in honor of the birth of the Babylonian Messiah.
The Babylonian Messiah, right? At Christmas. So that's who you are celebrating, Brother Wes, and all those that follow you. Now that's your choice. You can choose to worship a pagan deity in ignorance and try to justify it. But the reality of the matter is that you can clean it up. No matter how well you try to clean it up, it still goes back to forbidden practice and worship, paganism, right? Okay, let's go to the next source. All right, the Nativity of St. John. Let's read that one there.
The feast of the Nativity of St. John is set down in the papal calendar for the 24th of June, or Midsummer Day. The very same period was equally memorable in the Babylonian calendar as that of one of its most celebrated festivals. It was a midsummer, or the summer solstice, that the month called in Chaldea, Syria, and Phoenicia by the name of Tammuz began, and on the first day, that is, or on about the 24th of June, one of the grand original festivals of Tammuz was celebrated.
So there goes your second birth. You got your birth in the winter, and you have your birth in the summer. That's the solstice.
To the yellow.
Yeah, we're going to start on page 112 in the highlighted part. Now start right here, right at the but still question right here.
But still a question was to be determined. What was to be the name of this pagan festival when it was baptized and admitted into the ritual of Roman Christianity? To call it by its old name of Bel or Tammuz at the early period when it seems to have been adopted would have been too bold. To call it by the name of Christ was difficult, inasmuch as there was nothing special in his history at that period to commemorate. But the subtlety of the agents of the mystery of iniquity was not to be baffled. If the name of the Mashiach could not be conveniently tacked to it, what should hinder its being called by the name of his forerunner, John the Baptist? John the Baptist was born 6 months before our Mashiach. When, therefore, the pagan festival of the winter solstice had once been consecrated as the birthday of the Savior, it followed as a matter of course that if his forerunner was to have a festival at all, his festival must be at this very season. For between the 24th of June and the 25th of December, that is, between the summer and the winter solstice, there are just 6 months. Now, for the purpose of the papacy, nothing could be more opportune than this. One of the many sacred names by which Tammuz or Nimrod was called when he reappeared in the mysteries after being slain was Onez.
So there goes your dual dates, right? So Brother Wes was trying to say that the dates was conflicting, but no, they're not. They both are the dates that was celebrated. Okay, the summer solstice and the winter solstice. Okay, we're going to read on page 93 at where it says, how did the Romanist church? Okay.
How then did the Roman Church fix on December the 25th as Christmas Day? Why thus? Long before the 4th century and long before the Christian era itself, a festival was celebrated among the heathen at that precise time of the year in honor of the birth of the son of the Babylonian queen of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And it may fairly be presumed that in order to conciliate the heathen and to swell the number of the nominal adherents of Christianity, the same festival was adopted by the Roman Church, giving it only the name of the Mashiach. This tendency on the part of the Christians to meet paganism halfway was very early developed, and we find Tertullian, even in his day, about the year 230, bitterly lamenting the inconsistency of the disciples of the Mashiach in this respect, and contrasting it with the strict fidelity of the pagans to their own superstition. By us, says he, who are strangers to Sabbaths and new moons and festivals once acceptable to Yah, the Saturnalia, the feasts of January, the Brumalia, and the Matronalia are now frequented. Gifts are carried to and fro. New Year's Day presents are made with din, and sports and banquets are celebrated with uproar. Oh, how much more faithful are the heathen to their religion, who take special care to adopt no solemnity from the Christians. Upright men strive to stem the tide, but in spite of all their effort, the apostasy went on till the church, with the exception of a small remnant, was submerged under pagan superstition.
Right. So we read that other part there. So we see that that's how it got started. So now, Brother Wes says that they early celebrated the Messiah's birthday on that day. So we're showing you that this predates way before the Messiah came in the earth and was born, that they were celebrating their deity on the 25th of December in Egypt and Babylon, right? All right, so now author Hislop, we're going to go to page 97 about the Yule log. Remember, in Christmas, they sing Yuletide carols being sung by a fire. That's talking about singing by the Yule log. The Yule log was lit, right? Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead.
Therefore, the 25th of December, the day that was observed at Rome as the day when the victorious God reappeared on earth, was held at the Natalis Invicti Solis, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Now the Yule log is the dead stock of Nimrod, deified as the sun god, but cut down by his enemies. The Christmas tree is Nimrod, Redivivus, the slain god, come to life again. And the light reflected by the above statement on customs that still linger among us, the origin of which has been lost in the mist of hoar antiquity. Let the reader look at the singular practice still kept up in the South on Christmas Eve of kissing under the mistletoe bough. That mistletoe bough in the Druidic superstition, which, as we have seen, was derived from Babylon, was a representation of the Messiah, the man, the branch. The mistletoe was regarded as a divine branch that came from heaven and grew upon a tree that sprung out of the earth.
Okay, read this part in Scandinavia.
In the Scandinavian story of Balder, the mistletoe branch is distinguished from the lamented god. The Druidic and Scandinavian myths somewhat differed, but yet, even in the Scandinavian story, it is evident that some marvelous power was attributed to the mistletoe branch, for it was able to do what nothing else in the compass of creation could accomplish. It slew the divinity on whom the Anglo-Saxons regarded the empire of their heaven as depending. Now, all this is necessary to unravel this apparent inconsistency. It is just to understand the branch that had such power as a symbolical expression for the true Messiah. The Bacchus of the Greeks came evidently to be recognized as the seed of the serpent, for he is said to have been brought forth by his mother in consequence of intercourse with Jupiter. When that god had appeared in the form of a serpent in the character of Balder was the same, the story of his death just amounted to this, that the seed of the serpent had been slain by the seed of the woman. This story, of course, must have originated with his enemies, but the idolaters took up what they could not altogether deny, evidently with the view of explaining it away.
That's yeah, go ahead.
Thus, by the engrafting of the celestial branch into the earthly tree, heaven and earth that sin had served were joined together, and thus the mistletoe bough became the token of divine reconciliation to man, the kiss being the well known token of pardon and reconciliation. Whence could such an ideal have come? May it not have come from the 85th Psalm, verses 10, 11, and 11? Mercy and truth are met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth in consequence of the coming of the promised Savior, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Certain it is that the psalm was written soon after the Babylonish captivity, and as multitudes of the Israelites after that event still remained in Babylon under the guidance of inspired men such as Daniel as a part of the divine word, it must have been communicated to them as well as to their kinsmen in Palestine. Babylon was at that time the center of the civilized world, and thus paganism, corrupting the divine symbol as it ever has done, had opportunities of sending forth its debased counterfeit of the truth to all the ends of the earth through the mysteries that were affiliated with the great central system in Babylon. Thus, the very customs of Christmas still existent cast surprising light at once on the revelations of grace made to all the earth and the efforts made by Satan and his emissaries to materialize, carnalize, and degrade them.
So now we're going to go and to Jeremiah 10, because the brother commented about the tree. The tree in Jeremiah 10 is not a Christmas tree. So we're going to read from that, and I'm going to show you some tree worship in the ancients. Okay? All right, go ahead.
Hear ye the word which Yahuwah speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus says Yahuwah, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Yah, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations? For to thee doth it appertain. For as much as among all the wise men of the nations and in all their kingdoms there is none like unto thee, but they are altogether brutish and foolish. The stock is a doctrine of vanities.
That's good. So here is a web link for Brother Wes and all those that are interested. The Isis and the holiday tree. Right? He says, do you have a tree in your house right now? Many of us do. Each winter we celebrate the winter holidays by bringing evergreen trees in our homes, decorating them with shiny ornaments and glittering lights. The rather obvious reasons for this is to remind ourselves of the green life that exists even in this darkest part of the year when most of the plant life has either died off or gone into hibernation, as well as to celebrate the ongoing life with our beloved ones and to prepare for the next phase of life in the coming new year. Tree, of course, were important to the ancient Egyptians as well, both symbolically and practically, though they were not the type of evergreen conifers we generally have as Yule trees. There is only one conifer native to Egypt, a type of juniper, but they had access to other conifers and conifers resins in importing them. He says, I'm not sure whether ancient Egyptians brought cut or potted trees into their homes during festivals like we do, but we know they brought in branches and flowers for certain festivals. We know that temples, palaces, and well-to-do homes had extensive gardens, and the beautiful bouquets of flowers were ambiguous as offerings to the deities. We know that the ancient Egyptians transported these trees in pots, and the images here shows men bringing potted frankincense trees from their native land back to Egypt. So you see this here, right?
Let me see again. Mm-hmm.
And then you see this one here.
Mm-hmm.
Isis gives food and water to Hotep. Okay.
Symbolic of what the cookies and except not the cookies and the milk.
This is Nebet Amentet, right? It was the goddess of leafless trees, which other texts identify as southern sycamore. Though this particular representation does not look like other sycamores in Egyptian art. Okay. This is another representation of Isis as a tree goddess offering her breasts, in this case, to nourish Pharaoh Tutmos. You can see Isis' name as the bottom two glimpse. Okay. This is the deceased and his Ba receive water from the tree goddess in the other world. Okay. All right. Okay, so here are some more images of Christmas tree worship or tree worship in the ancients, right? So I'm not going to go to the links, but you can actually see these pictures down here. Look at this one here. They made it smaller. All these tree worship. That's an evergreen tree there. That's a Christmas tree. Okay. There goes another one. Right? More tree worship. Okay. The Babylonian. That's the Neo-Babylonian. The Persians. Right? Okay. Okay, we're going to read from, this is AI generated, right? AI generated. Want to read that? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Canaanite tree worship was centered around the goddess Asherah, who was associated with sacred trees. These were sacred poles or trees that were erected near Canaanite religious sites to honor Asherah. They were often found on high places, which were elevated locations that the Israelites associated with a divine presence.
Mm-hmm.
Asherah was one of the three main goddesses in the Canaanite pantheon, and her primary role was as the mother goddess. She was often depicted as a tree or tree trunk in the Bible. Asherah worship was known for being sensual and involved ritual, prostitution, and divination. It was closely associated with the worship of Baal. The Bible mentions Asherah over 40 times and often uses her association with sacred trees to describe sites of idolatrous worship. The Bible also includes instructions to cut down Asherah poles and not plant trees as Asherahs. Archaeological evidence includes pillar figurines and the lashes ewer, which may help us understand Asherah.
So Brother Huff uses Sextus Julius Africanus as a source, right? I was able to go to a website, which is this one here, and this website quotes, it says, therefore, oh, you want to read it?
Therefore, since 1582, Christians have been consistent with celebrating the birth of Jesus on December 25th. What about the years before 1582? Here are some ancient accounts starting in the 2nd century that records Jesus's birthday on December 25th.
Right.
The early church father Irenaeus, who lived from 130 to 202 AD, wrote in the 2nd century that Jesus was born on December 25th. Irenaeus was a student of Polycarp, who was a disciple of the Apostle John, Yachanan, who was closely affiliated with Jesus' mother. To me, this seems to be the most reliable source.
Okay, that's good. So he says that this is the most reliable source, right? Notice he has the number 4, right? So you go down to his reference number 4 down here, and number 4 is a link to Irenaeus' book. Okay, and I clicked on this link, and when I click on this link, this book comes up. So it's a reference from archives.org. If I click on the search engine, I'm looking for December. Right? I click December, hit enter, no results. I click March, hit enter, no results. So where is the reference? He referenced the link. It's not there. So that he said that was his most reliable source. So if that's the most reliable source, then it's not a reliable source, which makes it false. Okay. The second reference he gives. Go ahead.
The historian Sextus Julius Africanus, 162-240 AD, recorded in the year 221 AD that Jesus was conceived on March 25th, extrapolating forward 9 months that Jesus was born on December 25th. The early church father.
That's good. So he gives a reference 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we go down here to 5, right? Sextus Julius Africanus. That's who Brother Huff is referring to. So he's quoting more than likely somebody else who's quoting somebody else. Okay? But they haven't put up, right, So when you go back here and you go to this reference link, open it in a new tab, this book comes up. Okay. Now, if I go like this, put December, I wait. I've already done it, so I'm not going to continue to wait. So I'll take December out, put it in March. Enter and wait. Oh, one came up, March. Oh, maybe that's it. Let's see. Where's the one at? It's showing one.
What was that highlighted that we saw?
You saw something highlighted?
In green or something.
Okay. Oh, it was now the 189th Olympiad, in the year that had the bisextile day, the 6th day before the calends of March, i.e. 24th February. So that's the only reference here to March. December doesn't show up. Okay. Now, where's the reference? Okay. I should be able to go to the link that they give. And why not, when they give these links, why not say on page, whatever. Now here goes one. They says, book 4, 23.3. Okay. That's not one of the references that he gave. That's something different. Okay, so 3 says, okay, go ahead, read that one.
The early church father Hippolytus 170 to 236 AD wrote that Jesus was born on December 25th.
And so they use a number 6 there. So you go down to 6. Okay. Now he gives a reference. Oh, commentary on Daniel, book 4, 23.3. So let's click this link. Okay. Open. In a new tab. So he said book 4, 23.3. Okay. So we see this here, right? But here's my concern. All right. We see this right here. And it's reference number 3, it says, lit 8 days before the calends of January. Okay. So now, interesting thing to note about this, and I'll highlight this page here, is that this was copyrighted in 2010 by chronicon.net. Okay. So he's saying book 4, which is his reference. Okay. So I see what he did in his book, but he's saying that it's in, okay, where's my page at? Okay. So he's saying that it's in book 4, 23.3. Okay. Okay, so the link that he gave us was commentary on Daniel, and we went to that link. That link panned out. But when he said for us to go to Hippolytus of Rome, right? Commentary on Daniel in book 4, 23.3. Unless I'm missing something, I went to that link and this is what I got. Okay. Book 4, Okay. And when I go to page, it's saying book 4 is page 90. When I go to page 90, okay. And we see astrology on in here, description of astrology. And so maybe it's me. Maybe I got the wrong book. So we go to Daniel commentary, and everybody refers back to this 2010 copy of Hippolytus' commentary on Daniel with notes. So when you click on this, it takes you to that exact same, this one here, the exact same book, 2010 book. Copyright by chroniccon.net. So we cannot concur that that's an accurate, true link or reference, because every reference that they gave us, it falls short of what is supposedly supposed to represent or to provide proof of. So I'm going to end this video here. I spent 40 minutes, and so far the Wes Huff video presentation has fallen short. With that said, shalom.